Hey there, Skullheads. I'm Snags.
And I'm old Silky.
What's happening, folks? This is Mr. Clean checking in.
Mr.
Nice to be
Clean.
back.
We got Mr. Clean back on the show.
Always
here.
a pleasure to have you, sir.
That's right.
I have been beamed down to join this show.
Yes. Tonight we're talking about books and movies about UFOs, and Silky's got a playlist of songs about UFOs. So it's the UFO show.
Yeah.
Before we get into it, make sure you go to snagsandsilky.com. Buy everything. Check out all the links. Post links to your favorite shows on. All over the internet because we're too lazy to market this fucking thing. So you market it. Before we jump into the books and movies about UFOs, we just got a little some opening banter stuff. Silky, why don't you start?
All right. So last night Snags and I both are plagued with really bizarre dreams that usually are pretty damn funny. So I had a dream last night that Snags and I had a band and a song called If I Die With My Pants On. And the next line was, would you suck me one last time? And it was like, if I die with my pants on, and then the background vote, die with my pants, kind of a call and respond thing.
And you said it was a beautiful ballad, right?
Yeah, it was like this ballad bluesy thing.
Yeah.
Total tongue in cheek, but would you suck
sounds
me
like
time?
a Steel Panther
Suck
ballad.
me one last time. Yes, total Steel Panther.
Yeah.
But I literally woke myself up laughing.
And there are songs by a band that we have called Booger Cookie that you people will never hear.
Yeah, but that could be an original tune.
No, I was just thinking, if we get back into that, we gotta sing. We got to do a ballad if I die with my pants on. And then drop the news about the Motorhead stuff.
Oh, so there's a 50th anniversary thing of our Lord and Savior Motorhead and Lemmy. I sent that link to Snags. Basically, this year is their 50th anniversary. They're going to be releasing, I think in February, they're going to reissue Overkill, Bomber, and Ace of Spades with probably colored vinyl, and then they're bragging about some really exclusive posters with the vinyl. The other, I think Walmart did something with Van Halen where they had some really cool backstage pass replicas and things. So there are plenty of Motorhead photos that could be phenomenal posters.
I'm guessing you're going to do the $300 installment plan on this thing.
No. These should be, if they're just the vinyl, if it's just the vinyl, those should be probably $30 a pop. I don't know. I don't think I would get them unless the posters were just gotta have stuff. But all those collectors out there.
We have this routine. He'll post a link and chat about something like this or a Eazy-E Funko Pop doll or something.
Something that Snag should buy.
And I will reply in all caps. You gotta get it or your collection won't be complete.
That's it.
Yeah. Dude here owns a virtual toy store in his house of all kinds of crazy shit.
Well, not to my the extent that I would have, but you have to.
Well, you have to smuggle shit in because you don't want your
wife when you have a family, you can't just go.
You can't let them know you're wasting all that money on box sets. You have to maintain the impression that you're not doing it.
Yeah, that you're only buying gas and groceries.
Yeah. That's important.
He's eating spam while he's got the coolest Motorhead posters.
Yeah, exactly. they're scrimping and
It's not too far from the truth.
No, all right. They ate tonight. I have not. So.
Mr. Clean also he had an update. Share with us.
I have some sources in the music industry that I don't reveal, and I can report to everybody with 100% confidence that Tool is not releasing an album this week and probably not next week either. So pretty.
Yeah.
Sure,
So they're continuing to not release a new album. That's breaking. Yep. That's breaking. You heard it here first.
Breaking
on the Snags and Silky show.
0% progress. That's not even trying.
Wow.
So probably didn't even think about it in the last.
The minute this episode drops, that shit's going to be all over X.
Oh, they'll know. Yeah,
Facebook.
Nothing going on here at Tool News Desk.
I did have a cool dream, though.
Set the Reddits on fire.
Yeah, I actually had a dream where I actually got the blowjob. You know, a lot of times you had that dream where you think you're going to get that.
Nice.
And then you wake up. You wake up and you're like, fuck.
Damn it.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. And I saw this one all the way through. I was like, this never happened before.
I can't tell you many times it's just some stunning, amazing chick and your alarm goes off or whatever.
Or it's teasing you all night through your dream, and you're living through some kind of a story, and it keeps about to happen, and then you can't find her, and
all that.
Yeah, and then it never happens. And but I actually had one go.
That's fantastic.
Cool.
Congratulations, man! You got a blowjob in a dream. That's great.
Yeah. So I knew when I woke up, Tool would be making a big announcement. But I checked.
Right. I was just gonna say tomorrow you're gonna dream that Tool released an album.
And wake up and it's true.
Right. So, all right. So let's dig into UFO books and movies. Silky wanted to kick things off.
So I wanted to this is episode 87. Estimates of the number of planets in the Milky Way galaxy range from 8 billion to 8 trillion planets in the Milky Way. Now,
we're the only one with life, man. I'm telling you.
8 trillion planets. No, we're alone. No. We're alone.
God says we're the only one with life.
That is some serious shit to think about. I will say when aliens cruise past Earth, they probably lock their doors.
Yeah. And it's mainly because of this kid right here. They don't want anything to do with him. Hey, what's up, buddy?
Those UFOs are real. Tell them.
See? UFOs are real.
That's right. Now pimp the website.
We got mugs. We got stickers. We got hoodies.
T-shirts.
We got T-shirts. We got blankets. We got action figures.
We got UFOs.
A lot of this is limited edition. So if
you don't see it on there, it's sold out already. But snagsandsilky.com. We got branded Snags and Silky UFOs.
Okay. Condor, fresh from the shower.
El Condor, ladies and gentlemen. Yes.
Fresh from the shower.
Salesman of the year.
Tell mommy about that. Close the door, please. All right. So I wanted to just touch real brief on Ancient Aliens is a TV show, I believe A&E, but you can find it on Prime. And they look at just a plethora of thought-provoking topics like astonishing feats of engineering. They look at like the pyramids, these 20-ton blocks put together with minute, finite precision. The fact that the 3 pyramids at Giza, their longitude and latitude also lines up with where the measurement of the stars above to the exact number. You look it up. It's fucking crazy.
Crazy.
And this show will talk about that stuff. So you might put that first episode on and be skeptical but I will
link the show on the website if
they touch on things that you just sit there and go, God damn, it just makes you really think about stuff. And that's half the battle. I mean, this stuff, it's just fun to think about. Sci-fi in general tends to be a little cerebral and possibly dry to some people that want to read fiction or watch a movie. But I think for a lot of us, it just draws us because it's thought provoking,
And is it sci-fact instead of sci-fi?
Sci-fact, yeah.
And the thing is that the main thing about Ancient Aliens that I'm familiar with is the cat with the wild hair who shows up in all the memes.
Oh yeah, that weirdo.
Yeah.
And he's bizarrely, he makes some pretty astonishing points.
I'm sure he does. Einstein had wild hair.
Sure. There are drawings throughout history, artwork, cave drawings, just of what it cannot be anything but a spaceship floating and people pointing up, or some dude in a bubble helmet and clearly a spacesuit. They have that shit. And then somebody pointed out on one of the shows, I watched most of that first season, but one thing that always stuck with me is a guy says, if you give paper and crayons to a bunch of kids, kindergarten, first grade, and tell them to draw, here's some paper, draw stuff, they're going to draw what they've seen. They're a young child isn't going to just create from his imagination something. It's going to be based on stuff he's seen. And so when you look at these cave drawings and you see what's clearly a fucking spaceship, or even in hieroglyphics, there's some stuff that are clearly, it just makes you wonder, how are they drawing this?
There's that whole theory that humans are a hybrid of the apes that lived on Earth and greys, and they fused us genetically and were an experiment. So there's that theory. I think probably comes out of Ancient Aliens and other sources too.
Yeah.
So who knows?
I was going to say, I seen that one drawing that you're talking about, Silky. There's more than one, but it's a figure with a space helmet on, and there's a freaking hose coming off the helmet to a backpack. And it's like this is either aliens came down or these ancient people knew how to time travel and traveled to like 1969 and saw the moon landing and did something that can't be like. It's got to be one or two of those things.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, they don't just. It goes back to this guy made this point that kids don't just draw from, you draw what you see, you draw what, so it just stuck with me. Like, damn, you can't, they didn't just draw that. They saw something that,
So then you have, and tell me if I'm jumping too far ahead into your next subject here, Silky, but then you have, what kicked it off in modern times is the Roswell incident.
Yeah, that was actually the next thing. That occurred July 8th of 1947. And the Army Air Force at the time, they capture a flying saucer on a ranch in Roswell, New Mexico. So the headline in the local paper was RAAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region. That went out internationally and was retracted the next day. Now, allegedly, a crash site was found, bodies of aliens recovered, and all that's retracted. And then they come on and say, oh, it was a weather balloon. And they actually have one of the guys holding some bullshit tinfoil.
I've seen that picture. And I've seen the original headline too. Yeah, you can look that up.
It's so absurd. Yeah. I think they absolutely, something went down that night. And now you have Area 51 that no one knows. We all know of it and stuff. And it's spoofed and TV show, X-Files, shit like that. But, we never know. But I wanted to mention really quick, before 1947, October 30th of 1938, Orson Welles' radio show gets interrupted, and then CBS vividly describes invading Martian armies like news bulletins, without informing listeners that it was just entertainment. And this was part of Orson Welles' radio show.
Yeah, he was basically doing War of the Worlds as a news report without warning anybody that it was.
This caused mass hysteria. People fled their homes. There were suicide reports, just major chaos. And I think if you did something to that level now, this cancel culture we're in would have been the end of Orson Welles' career.
Oh yeah, no, he would have got canceled on social media. There'd been hashtag campaigns ban Orson. Yeah,
totally. So, Mr. Clean, you want to jump in? I've got the Roger Corman. We can do that. Once we get into the movie stuff.
Yeah, and we can let Mr. Clean jump in, but basically what the Orson Welles thing and the Roswell crash and Cold War paranoia as well, it all morphed into this 1950s sci-fi genre, which Silky's going to cover the Roger Corman low budget, and he'll mention some of the main ones as well, The Day the Earth Stood Still and all that shit. But Mr. Clean has he's read a lot of books about UFOs and history and stuff, and let's let him chime in about some of that shit first.
Yeah, I don't have too much stuff, but I remember I was at Camp Westminster in Conyers, Georgia, and it's a 2-week summer camp, church camp, and one of the nights, your cabin, which usually got about 10 or 12 boys, in the cabin. I was about 8 years old. You go out in the woods and you camp and you make fire and you camp and do roasted marshmallows and all that kind of stuff and sleep out under the stars. It's freaking July. It's hot as hell. And, and I remember laying on my back. I'll never forget this, looking up at the sky, and I saw a star, a light, and it was moving. And I thought it was a satellite. I was like, and it didn't surprise me. I'm like, hey, maybe I'm seeing a satellite. And it came, and it was coming across like right where it was directly overhead of me. I was watching it, and it stopped. And it just freaking stopped on a dime. And I'm watching it, and all of a sudden it takes off at a 90. It took off at a 90-degree perpendicular, like show. I mean, just gone. And
holy shit!
Yeah. And I just remember going, I just saw that. That is freaking nuts. It was a long way away. I mean, you could tell it was satellite kind of distance, and to have it also just stop kind of blew my mind. But
so we didn't know we were going to get a real firsthand UFO story on this show. Although Silky has one he'll tell at the end, but it's not like yours, man. That's some breaking news shit. I've known you for years. I had no idea you saw a UFO.
Well, when this all came up that we were going to do this, I started thinking about things and why I'm interested in it. And then I remembered that. I was like, holy cow, I had forgotten about that, because it was just didn't seem real, almost like it just your mind couldn't process. Like, I didn't just see that. And I was 8, so I definitely wasn't on LSD or. Yeah,
it was before you were smoking weed and all that shit. So
yeah, that was 10. So no, but my dad, when I was born, already had his private pilot's license, and so I was very interested in aviation, and grew up, just loving, studying airplanes and all, kind of aviation stuff. And somehow I got a hold of a book called Flight 19, and Flight 19 was a group of TBM Avengers. They were bombers, World War II era bombers. And this was like the late 40s, and Flight 19 went flying off, doing a routine, like training flight out in what became known as the Bermuda Triangle. And they're on the radio, and all their instruments are going whack, and they can't tell which direction they're doing, and then all of a sudden they lose communication, and to this day nobody's ever found what happened to those planes. People suspected there's other stuff that happened in the Bermuda Triangle where stuff disappeared.
That was a big deal.
Those five planes I think went into the who knows.
Well, the Bermuda Triangle, like growing up, there was always documentaries about the Bermuda Triangle because shit's always disappearing out there. So that could have been, went through a Stargate or something, just fucking.
Well, I will say too, much like hot lava, quicksand, and Bermuda Triangle could come up at any point during your day when you were out playing with your buddies.
Oh yeah, it was Bigfoot, Bermuda Triangle, all the
Eddie from Iron Maiden, any of that shit could.
Well, the other thing from back then was, we're getting off topic a little bit, was the killer bees that were coming up from South America that were going to kill everybody.
Yeah, that's another one. Yeah,
yeah.
Man, they're taking forever to get here.
I know there was a movie called The Swarm about that.
Oh yeah, and then
there's that movie Final Countdown about the kind of Bermuda Triangle thing about the aircraft destroyer that goes through some time warp and suddenly they're in World War II with Martin Sheen. I don't know if you remember that one. There's a lot of that shit back then.
It was like 1942, or it was some kind of.
Yeah, they're dealing with kamikaze pilots, and it's a 1981
down with
aircraft
freaking Tomcats.
Yeah. That's great.
But yeah, so that kind of got me like super, like wow, man, that's kind of like blew my mind reading about that. They actually sent a PBY Catalina rescue plane out to try to search for him, a search plane. It disappeared. It's like it disappeared also, and it's like no one ever heard from any of them.
Well, we had an passenger aircraft about 4 years ago that disappeared, and they never figured out what the hell happened to it. You remember that one?
Yeah, they actually
Malaysia.
They actually kind of blamed the Russians, and then they didn't. Then they found some plane artifacts on the beach, like that was placed there. It was really fucking weird.
I think it was aliens. But anyway, so go ahead, Mr. Clean.
Yeah, so then I was interested in that kind of stuff, and I got my hands on a book written by Steven Spielberg, and it was Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
That was a novelization.
He wrote the novel, the original book. It says on the cover, a novel by Steven Spielberg. I mean, he wrote it.
He wrote that. I did not know that.
He wrote it.
That was probably the novelization of the movie. Yeah.
I think it could be. I didn't see the movie for many years. When it came out, I didn't see the movie. Right. So that was the movie came out in 1977, but I read the book, and I thought it was awesome. I mean, that book just blew me away. And of course, as you get towards the end of that book, when we finally get to meet the aliens to come out of their spaceship, and there's the dudes from Flight 19 walking out of the.
Were they?
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Still wearing their flight uniforms and their flight jackets and stuff, dressed just like you would back in the late 40s when you're flying an old World War II bombers. So that was something that I thought was pretty cool. Kind of tied that together, validated what I was thinking. Of course, it was a freaking aliens. But that is a great. I love to read. I read every day, and that's a really good book. I mean, it's a really.
I just looked it up. It's by Steven Spielberg and Leslie Waller, and it is a novelization of the movie. So you discovered the novelization first, and then you watched the movie.
Yeah.
You know who's a big fan of novelizations of movies is Quentin Tarantino. He'll always talk about, and the novelization is even better, kind of thing. So you're going a lot. I'm going to see if I can find that novelization and link it in the click pit.
Yeah. So doing some research, and actually something came out just coincidentally a couple months ago. I don't know why it was in the news, but it was just the first 8 UFOs, documented here in the United, in America, in America, one in the United States yet, and it was you may remember John Winthrop. He was born in the late 1590s or whatever, and moved. Eventually got disgruntled with how things were in England and came across, and they founded the Massachusetts Bay Colony. And John Winthrop was, kind of in charge of a lot of things there, and considered to be like a genius of his time, just workaholic. And in 1639, he kept journals and he recorded everything. He just write everything down. And of course, these are all people that are, from like the Puritans. These are people that don't drink. They go, they believe, they worship God, and they, they have those kind of, very strict values. And John Winthrop,
no orgies or gangbangs.
No orgies or ayahuasca or any of that kind of stuff.
Just make.
But he writes, he records just kind of matter of factly about what happened. Was a couple guys from the colony got in a boat on what is what they called the Muddy River, and the Muddy River actually wraps around Fenway Park, to give you an idea of kind of the geography. And these guys were in their rowboat, 2 of them, and observed a big glowing light up above the river. And when it would stop, it would glow and it would flare up like with flames. And then it would go, flying over, over towards the horizon and stop. And when it would go zipping over to another spot, it resembled a pig. It actually, they said it resembled a pig, like with four legs hanging down. And people.
Oh, what that was? That was when Pink Floyd's Animals came out. They that balloon went through a time warp and showed up over.
Possibly.
It could be. But some people say it's like a saucer with the 4 landing gear legs hanging down, and they said it looked like a pig. And now this is a tidal river. This is Boston. The Muddy River is affected by the tides.
Sure.
They were out there watching this, according to these guys, for 3 hours, and then suddenly kind of like just came to, and they were all the way back where they started. Like they had been floating down the river, and all of a sudden they kind of like have just kind of like this snap out of it moment, and they're right back where they started. And
let me ask you this. Is there a book that documents this so I can link it in the click pit, or is this a story you remember and you don't remember where you read it?
These are, John Winthrop's writings are, I'm sure in Washington D.C. in museum somewhere. This is
right. So this is just from your extent, because as our viewers might be figuring out, this cat's constantly reading history books. So you read about this somewhere in your journeys, but you don't remember exactly the book. Okay, cool. Keep going.
No, but there's just the writings of John Winthrop. Is his diary, his journal. He kept a journal about everything. Okay, this week we planted crops, and yesterday the dude saw this crazy freaking flying pig.
So it's in his diaries. That's crazy.
His journals, yeah. And then he also records it again in 1644, 5 years later, and a lot of different people saw it and corroborated. Like, I saw that shit too. It's flying up and down all over the place, and
in the 1600s,
1644, talking about this. And these are not people that, like we said, they weren't doing LSD or having orgies and stuff.
There was no peyote ceremonies they were involved.
That holds a lot of weight when you look at these people. Are just they're not thinking I'm going to be famous if I make up this bullshit story. They're writing. They saw something, and
And then you got like Thomas Paine. Thomas Paine, he got exiled out because he was going against the church. He wrote Common Sense. He was a big believer in what they called back then the plurality of worlds, which meant that we believe our founding fathers like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, they believe there was life on other planets back then.
Well, they also believe in a world inside the Earth, and there's stories of guys, and this is a great way to make money. A guy comes through, says he's going to do this expedition to go into the center of the Earth and bring back evidence of dinosaurs and all kinds of things, and he takes up all these donations and leaves this town and is never seen again. But he left with what was probably close to $1 million.
Well, why do you think that the Washington Monument, which is the world's largest obelisk, is pointing to the sky, but they put a reflecting pool in front of it to point, so you'd see it pointing to the center of the Earth? And that's all come from the founding fathers and the plurality of worlds, and them believing something's in the center of the Earth, and and the Freemasons and all that, and the whole geometry of Washington D.C., this big diamond,
and all the curios and things on the buildings that we've long forgotten about that are still there.
So let me get this straight, because y'all are both familiar with this, but I'm new to it. So they believe that there was like a civilization or something in the center of the Earth, and then they believe that there was life on other planets.
Yeah, Ambrose Bierce is a kind of a sci-fi guy. He also very much believed in that, and that if you look him up, he disappeared. Like he just is gone. Like they don't know what happened to him.
Well, I want to ask Mr. Clean though, because he brought this up. Is it do I have that correct? They believe that there was a civilization in the center of the Earth and that there was life on other planets. Say more about it.
What I know, what I read, I did not find anything about the them believing there's a civilization in the center of the Earth, but they believed in plurality of worlds, meaning there's other planets that have people on them. And they also believed in the duality of the world, meaning there's the good and evil. And they have the Washington Monument with the reflecting pool to point up and down, like down, that's hell, and up is the heavens. And so that's kind of how they.
Apparently, throughout DC, there are all kinds of because the Freemasons designed a lot of those buildings that are still there, and there are. All these clues, like there's 13 feet high, and just all these numbers throughout the city, and they fictionalize it in the Nicolas Cage movie Treasure Hunter, but they touch on all of that legit stuff. In that movie, it's a very entertaining movie, much like Raiders of the Lost Ark, but they blend it with fiction, and it's just thought provoking. Like, man, that's legit DC, and I know the Freemasons did a lot of that stuff, so it's very interesting.
Definitely.
Well, hang on, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, it definitely makes you think.
I'm asking AI right now, are there any speculated connections between the Masons and aliens? Just see what it says here. Since we're getting into the like we all smoked a brick of hash weed conspiracy theories. There are a lot of that. There are, this is according to Grok AI, which is Elon Musk's AI. There are various conspiracy theories and speculations that link Freemasonry with extraterrestrial beings or UFO phenomena. So they're saying there's some of their symbols are related to the pyramids, which are related to the aliens.
The pyramid with the eye over it.
There are claims that Masonic texts or teachings discuss or hint at extraterrestrial intelligence or encounters. All right, so there's some in the world of conspiracy speculation. There's some connection there. Interesting.
And then you go to Easter Island. You go to Easter Island where all these heads are, and they were only just realized that there's bodies under the heads that, because of the weight, the heads just these statues slowly sunk into the ground, and what was left for decades and decades were just the heads. But they
And
were
so, and then
actually
who could have, the idea is who could have built the statues that big if it wasn't
that
aliens?
big, and there's nothing on that island. So who the hell brought this stone? You know,
right, right.
20 times. Just it's crazy.
It's some wacky shit. It reminds me of a Dazed and Confused scene where they're all smoking weed, and he goes, "Man, have you ever seen a dollar bill? There's some spooky shit on a dollar bill."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just, a lot of that, you just feel like they had some device that could levitate, or just literally
You got the same kind of pyramids in Central America too,
and
same
allegedly
deal.
in the Arctic Circle up there.
What?
Yeah,
Really?
there's apparently a mountain up in the Arctic that from an overshot is very pyramid-esque, but
That's different from
it's too damn cold to
definite pyramids. So
it's too damn cold to get in there, and
that's kind of sort of
very interesting.
Well, you definitely got the pyramids on opposite sides of the world that kind of resemble each other, and they're both huge. And
and there's stone statues
crop
that the
circles
Aztecs had. There's statues that the Aztecs had in South America, and then over in Egypt, they're almost identical. And that's you just got
some wild shit.
What's going on here? But
there is one last book, and then I'll pass it on. One last book that I read later on is like the late 80s. Stephen King, he wrote the Tommy Knockers.
Great.
And he thought it sucked. He was like, I was so whacked on cocaine when I wrote that book that I want to go back and do it over again. He like really doesn't like it, but I just thought that whole idea was kind of crazy. You know, somebody's like digging in their yard and they hit something.
So I'm somebody who hasn't read it.
So Tommy Knockers,
give us a
guy
summary.
Goes for a walk in the woods and trips over what he thinks is a root, and realizes it's a piece of metal, and he slowly starts digging, and then just his coming in contact with this metal starts to fuck with him, and he basically unearths a UFO out in the woods. And I believe the very ending is he gets on this ship and it takes off and takes him.
Yeah, it starts to affect like everybody in town.
In the town, yeah.
Except for the guy that's digging it up, because he's got a metal plate in his head. And so it's not fucking with him. But everybody else in town all of a sudden becomes like geniuses. They're coming up with all kinds of stuff, but at the same time, they're basically getting their souls sucked out of them.
Yeah, they're losing their hair, they're losing their teeth. You know, slowly, a lot of shit's going on.
Yeah, it's pretty far fetched, you know, and of course,
I remember
all kind of people get killed.
That came out in like '87. I was like 16, and that was
'87.
I think that's one I didn't like it, and I have every Stephen King thing. His latest book of short stories is incredible. It's called So You Like It Darker, and there's just every story in there is 12 stories, just amazing, really good stuff.
Let's check that out. I read all his stuff except for that one.
Yeah, it's called So You Like It Darker. There's a sequel to Cujo in it.
He wrote that other book called The Dome. Remember that? The Dome? Where it's freaking from aliens place a dome, like from outer space. They place like a freaking dome over a town.
Right over a
trap
town.
Everybody.
Didn't they make a TV show out of that?
They did. Not quite what the book was, but it was pretty good. In the book, a dog's cut in half because it just happened to be in the spot where the dome appeared all of a sudden.
Yeah.
A plane crashes into it. That's a great one. That is a great.
And then it turns out, isn't it just like some little alien kids just like playing a game like freaking.
I don't remember
the shell game. They got like this.
It's like when you trap some grasshoppers under a plastic cup or something.
Yeah,
just fucking around.
Yeah, and the town they're like losing oxygen, and everything's going dirty because of the just the air and eventually it just end of the book, the dome goes away and no explanation. But this little
crazy.
It's basically a reinterpretation of Lord of the Flies because, much like a post-apocalyptic situation, you would totally have little tribes spring up and, it's just human nature. So,
yeah. So so circling back around to the late 40s, early 50s, you've got sci-fi really the whole concept of aliens and flying saucers really starts to permeate popular culture. Why don't you pick it up talking about the movies, Silky?
Yeah, well, I mean, like you said, you had all your a lot of heavy sci-fi authors would come along, people writing into Weird Tales magazine, which started in the 30s. Then that starts your whole pulp fiction thing of just all those different magazines.
Pulp sci-fi guys. L. Ron Hubbard started out as one of those cats. Yeah,
which all of that would fuel your comic books and just all. So you have this subculture of comic book nerds and the weird tales, which you can collect. You can go back and get those in collections.
Yeah. I'm sure you have all of them.
I have through the Kindle. I got them super cheap, like 99 cents.
Nice.
And you get like 3 or 4 volumes of just those early collections of what people would send into Weird Tales to read. Pretty dry, little hard to get through. But so in the 50s, you just had a magic time where Sputnik was launched. That's going around. All the kids, including Stephen King, writes about this, being a little kid in a movie theater, and they're watching like The Day the World Ended, Roger Corman movie that I'll talk about. But they're watching something at the theater, and the manager at this movie theater thought it'd be a good idea to interrupt the movie, and it's just kids there, 8, 9 years old, to say Sputnik has been launched. The Russians have launched a satellite into the atmosphere, and that terrified kids. Thought, oh my God, the Russians are going to attack us tomorrow. And you had a lot of post World War II people building bomb shelters in their backyard and stuff. It was
you had the whole threat of the Russians and the Cold War.
Yeah,
that fueled a lot of the sci-fi. A lot of the sci-fi stuff was just an analogy for Cold War fears.
Sure, 100%.
Yeah,
but so it's just interesting that you look back and it was just a golden era of sci-fi. Giant bugs invading New York. I forget the movie, but there's literally a grasshopper on a model of the Empire State Building. I mean, King Kong, just classic shit. But
let's mention. I'm gonna get a list of the top 10 UFO movies of the 1950s. I just want to mention those because I know the Corman stuff won't be in there.
I've got a good list to rattle off on that, but I'll do the Roger Corman stuff. Richard Denning and Smoke Show, Adele Jurgens. The Day the World Ended. This is about a heroic scientist and a few other survivors. They face off against a radioactive mutation following an atomic war, kind of a post-apocalyptic aftermath. Great movie, though. And it's just, if you think about a budget, they're out kind of in the desert, and they just film and they run around, and but it's a solid story, in celebration of the 50s sci-fi. It's just a great movie. And then a year later, it conquered the world. That's got Lee Van Cleef of Good, the Bad, and the Ugly fame. This is an alien creature from Venus, makes contact with a scientist, Lee Van Cleef, but secretly wants to take over the world. That's a really good one. And then also Not of This Earth.
Which was remade with Tracy Lords in the 80s.
Oh, that's right. So the original, alien seeks blood of humans to try and cure a fatal blood disorder on his home planet. And that's just a great one. But then you think of like other people, because Corman did Westerns, he did all kinds of stuff. But a lot of solid, entertaining movies throughout the 50s and 60s and into the mid 70s.
He did some good sci-fi. He did some good sci-fi movies in the 80s too. There's a couple of them. I can't remember the names. We did talk about them in the Roger Corman episode. But if you just look up Roger Corman's filmography, and in the 80s, there's a couple good ones. They're low budget, but they're fun to watch.
They're entertaining. So The Thing from Another World, I think that's 1951. James Arnaz, who would go on to Gunsmoke, and Margaret Sheridan, another hottie. Apparently, she could clear a room with a beer fart.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's
just
well known.
A beast. Yeah. She could take a bottle, but
there you go.
Found in the Arctic,
3 different ways.
Yeah. Found in the Arctic of flying saucers. They unearth a flying saucer and they thaw out this alien that can mimic whoever's. The one in the 50s is actually chilling. There's some good scenes in there, but you can't. Nothing tops John Carpenter's remake with Kurt Russell. That's an absolute classic. I think 1982. But just in the 50s, listen to this list here. Plan 9 from Outer Space, The Blob, Forbidden Planet, which had that robot that would go on to be in.
So this is just major sci-fi movies from the 50s. You're rattling off. Before you did that, I do want to recommend the 2 Roger Corman movies from the 80s that I really fucking like. Galaxy of Terror and Forbidden World. Galaxy of Terror is 1981. Forbidden World 1982. Those are both totally worth watching.
Awesome.
All right, now jump into it.
Yeah, so Forbidden Planet, The Day the Earth Stood Still, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, It, Terror from Beyond Space, Earth versus Flying Saucers. These are all probably low budget, but extremely entertaining 50s sci-fi. You've probably heard of all of these. Angry Red Planet, that's a good one. Warning from Space, hard to find, but I have that. Invaders from Mars,
of course you
Battle in Outer Space, Red Planet Mars, and this is the one, 20 Million Miles to Earth. It's got a creature in it that literally Gene Simmons' demon imitates.
Is that it's like a miniature Godzilla thing? It comes out of the ocean. It falls into the ocean or something and comes out of the ocean.
Well, 20 million. You're thinking of it came from the bottom of the sea or something like that.
Probably, yeah. But, anyways, yeah.
But this 20 Million Miles to Earth, Gene Simmons' demon is totally mimicked.
Oh, really? So it looks like Gene Simmons?
It does the movement, the legs.
Yeah. Does it say, oh, yeah?
It should.
Yeah.
And then War of the Worlds, Destination of the Moon, and then obviously 2001 Space Oddity.
Odyssey.
You go back to the 30s. Odyssey. I'm doing David Bowie. Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers, those are from the 30s.
Oh, yeah, those are good serials. Yeah, those are on YouTube. Yeah.
Lost in Space, Space 1999's. Some people. This is kind of obscure. Star Trek.
1966, Star Trek.
Star
we did
Wars.
a whole episode on Star Trek and a whole episode on Star Wars. We did a geek out marathon.
Yeah, Twilight Zone was all over the place with different topics each week. One of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes is called "To Serve Man," and these aliens come down, and I believe the actor that played on the Addams Family, Lurch, is the head alien in To Serve Man. And they come down and they tell everyone, look, we're going to cure cancer. We're going to do all these things. We're going to show that we mean no harm. And we want to take some of your volunteers back to see our planet and everything. And they have this book that's called To Serve Man, but it's in their language. And during that episode, they're trying to decipher what this book is. And as the main guy is going up the plank to get on the spaceship, the love interest runs out. She's like, "Don't get on the ship. It's a cookbook."
Oh shit!
Yeah. And he
snap!
breaks his ass to get off the thing, and they grab him and they take off.
Put him in a deep fryer and zip into space.
Yep.
To Serve Man.
Microwave. That's where the microwave came from.
It's a cookbook.
Aliens.
Outer Limits, One Step Beyond. Those are all huge. And just obviously Planet of the Apes is another, just there's so many things, know.
It's not technically aliens, it's just alternate history kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one movie that scared the hell out of me. 1979, the original Alien.
Oh yeah. That was some hardcore shit. And then just
alien punching out of that dude's chest at the dinner table.
Ridley Scott Prometheus is a great kind of, Ridley Scott coming back to that series, just the prequel, basically, stuff, just interesting shit. That whole mythos around the whole Alien series. H.R. Geiger designed fucking Alien.
I feel like Prometheus touched on some legit stuff that could very easily, going back to Gray's coming down, and you got Joe Gray and Bud Gray. They come down, they're hanging out on Earth. There's nothing here but these Neanderthals, and they're down here for a couple years. And Bud Gray comes in one night, and he's like, "Dude, I fucked one of these Neanderthals." And
couldn't help it anymore. I had blue balls. I just had
went against what they're there to be scientifically correlate and figure shit out. And I fucked her, and now there's these humans coming up.
Yeah.
Now
I think if it happened, it was more of an actual intentional experiment. If that's really the case, there's I remember hearing some story on.
You said he got crabs, Mr. Clean.
He got Neanderthal VD or something. Man.
There you go.
Oh yeah,
incurable.
Yeah.
So they left and just have not come back.
I remember hearing this story on one of those online UFO threads. I can't remember if it was Reddit or X or one of those places, but there's stories about, and who knows if this stuff is true or not, Jimmy Carter getting into office as president. And, he was a very religious, devout religious cat. And being told that aliens were real and that humans were the result of an alien experiment, crossbreeding between Neanderthals, and him breaking down into tears because that means God ain't real, kind of thing. Or
well, all of this just the belief in aliens goes against, popular religion.
I think. The other part of that was that aliens invented religion to keep us from destroying each other.
Yeah,
and they gave us these myths to believe in to keep us from destroying each other, but it's just a self-preservation. So who obviously who knows what's true about all this, but it's interesting.
It's all about what keeps you comfortable in the darkness, and the darkness being the unknown. Otherwise, you would go mad.
For you and I, that's obviously Lemmy, right? Lemmy provides guidance to keep us from.
There's no situation I can't go to Motorhead for.
Yeah, that provides the meaning for life. So, anyways, you want me to? Can I jump into my two movies? I had two movies I wanted to kind of do a little deep dive on. These are two movies that came out in the late 80s, early 90s. A lot of similarities. They're both based on true stories, supposedly. And they're both really fucking kind of spooky to watch. The first one, 1989, is called Communion. I got a summary of it, and I promise I didn't get AI to help me write this summary. No, in fact, I wrote it myself. You'll see, based on the skillful writing here, is obviously no AI assistance whatsoever. Wink, wink. So Communion, yeah, it's totally not ramshackle at all. Communion, 1989, is a chilling and thought-provoking film based on the real-life experiences of author Whitley Strieber. The movie delves into Strieber's unsettling encounters with mysterious beings, blurring the lines between reality, memory, and the supernatural. Christopher Walken delivers a captivating performance as Strieber, whose struggle to understand and cope with his bizarre experiences leads to a psychological journey filled with eerie visuals and suspense. The film masterfully combines elements of horror, science fiction, and personal introspection, making it a must-watch for anyone fascinated by the unknown and the human psyche's response to it. So basically, it's basically this guy. He's a writer. He's struggling to write his next book. He lives in New York City. Him and his wife have a cabin out in the mountains, and when they go out in the mountains, sometimes he wakes up having had strange dreams, and like he sees little figures walking around the house, like he's paralyzed in his bed and he can't move, like somebody's examining him, and then he kind of wakes up and brushes it off as a dream.
The book is crazy.
The book is I mean, I could imagine and if you've read the book, I want you to talk about it after I'm done kind of summarizing.
Oh no, I mean, I just do that, but the book is really intense. It's too long to go. I don't remember.
The movie is the same way. There's basically a scene where they take some friends out for a weekend at the cabin, and in the middle of the night, these lights just light up the whole fucking area. There's all these sounds, and he sees people running around in the house. And in the morning, he's just blowing it all off. And his wife is too. Like, they're basically don't want to acknowledge it because it would be too much to fucking handle. And their guests are like, "What are you talking about?" That they're like, "Oh, you had strange dreams too?" And the guests are like, "It wasn't a fucking dream. The whole place was lit up." And they're like, no, it's just a dream. Hey, you want some pancakes? And they're like, "No, we want to leave."
Well, that goes back to that scene in Close Encounters. That was outrageous, terrifying as a kid, because that kid gets sucked out and gone.
Right out of the house.
Yeah,
right out of the house.
And so he ends up having a breakdown. That the whole experience with the guests at the cabin, who are not gonna deny what happened, starts to crack open his psyche. He has a breakdown. He goes to a therapist, and the therapist actually has had other patients who've had similar experiences, and refers him to a support group. He goes to the support group, and there's all these other people who've been fucking have these memories of being examined by little gray people and being paralyzed in their bed and waking up in these exam rooms in the middle of this sterile environment. And I actually looked it up. There actually are there's UFO abduction support groups all over the planet. They really exist.
A recurring theme or story a lot of victims talk about is missing time, where they're driving and suddenly all this stuff happens, and then they're back. Their gas tanks empty. They're 200 miles away from where they were, but they don't remember how they got.
That shows up in the next movie I'm going to talk about.
Crazy shit.
So, basically, how this movie, and I'm sure the book resolves itself, is he basically decides he needs to confront these experiences, and intentionally goes back out in the cabin, and when they show up, which they do, he basically stays awake and acknowledges what's happening and kind of makes friends with them. They're examining him. They're not going to harm him, but he's been chosen as a specimen to be checked in on every now and then, basically. And he just basically acknowledges it. And then his writer's block is gone because now he's got a fucking killer story for his next book, which is Communion. Right?
Nice.
So that's a really fucking spooky fucking movie. It's great, a great flick. The next one, 1993, is called Fire in the Sky. Here's my totally not AI assisted description.
That was a good movie.
Yeah, Fire in the Sky, 1993, is a riveting and terrifying account of Travis Walton's alleged alien abduction based on his own book. Set in the eerie, isolated forests of Arizona, the film captures the harrowing ordeal of Walton, played by D.B. Sweeney, who disappears after encountering a UFO, leaving his logging crew in a state of shock and disbelief. The narrative splits between the intense search for Walton and his nightmarish experiences aboard the alien spacecraft, and those are some wild-ass fucking scenes.
Yeah, when he's hiding under his kitchen table and the syrup drips down on him, and he just
he wakes up in this pod. They basically just put all the specimens in this pod in this big bay, and he kind of rips. He's kind of cocooned into this pod. It's like a honeycomb, and he tears his way out of it and realizes there's hundreds of people cocooned into these pods. Yeah. And he gets out of it, and then he just starts floating because there's no gravity.
Yeah. And this is before the Matrix.
Yeah, makes his way into. My wife's looking at me, giving the crazy. This was some true shit. You just have to see the movie.
Shit happened.
You don't understand. Anyways, so let me finish the thing. So the narrative splits between the intense search for Walton and his nightmarish experiences aboard the spacecraft, where he undergoes horrifying medical experiments. So he gets out of the pod, and then he gets into like some hallway, and he ends up interacting with the aliens. With its blend of gritty realism, suspenseful pacing, and some of the most unsettling scenes in alien abduction cinema, Fire in the Sky is an unforgettable journey into fear, friendship, and the unknown, compelling viewers to ponder the mysteries of the cosmos. So basically, he's gone, and the Earth side of the story definitely happened, right? There's this logging crew. They're up in the mountains. One of the guys disappears. Sheriff shows up to investigate it. He's convinced that they killed him and got rid of the body.
He's missing, and they can't find him.
Played by James Garner, the legendary Rockford, who we fucking idolize. He did a great job, though. He's the sheriff, and he's convinced that they killed him. And they all took lie detector tests, and they passed.
Yeah.
They basically just came with the truth. Hey, we saw this craft come down. It got him, and it basically, I'm pretty sure in the movie, it zaps the guy with a beam, and he collapses, and they take off because they're freaked out. And when they come back, his body isn't there.
Right.
And so they're under scrutiny for, I forget whether it's a week or two, and I'm getting sure. This is a live podcast. Okay, stop fucking with me. Go away. So it's a week or two, and they actually think that these guys killed him. They're going to be put on trial and everything, and then the guy fucking shows up. Mm-hmm. He calls from a phone booth, and he's naked in the phone booth. They go.
That's happened to all of us at different times.
Oh wait, Mr. Clean. Yeah, you got to tell your story about waking up soaking wet with the lottery tickets.
Yeah, that was not an alien abduction.
Tell that story real quick, though.
No, I used to work part-time at a restaurant, and they had a big party during the summer. And one of the rich guys owned the restaurant, had a big house on the Chattahoochee River and a cool swimming pool. Right. So everybody went over there. We were partying, swimming, and I was literally like walking distance from where I live, but I drove down there, and I just got drunk. I was the last person that in the pool where like the owner is like, "Hey man, you got to go home." Yeah. I'm still in the pool, like pounding beers, and they had like some, they gave away some gifts and stuff, and I actually, I ended up with like a whole pack of like just scratch off lottery tickets. Nice.
But you didn't. You were the version so you told me. You're at a party and you black out.
I have all these scratch offs like in my pocket, and and then Barbara, she's the owner of the restaurant, one of the owners, and she actually drove me back to my house in my own truck. And I'm like, okay, good night, and thank you. And then I don't know what happens. And then I wake up and I'm in the driver's seat of my truck. Like the next morning, I'm freaking soaking wet. And nice. all the scratch offs are ruined. There's probably like 50 of them. And I just still don't know. Like, did I go back over there and go back in the pool? I don't know what happened. Like, fully dressed.
So you basically, the version I remember you telling is you're at a party, you drank too much, and then you wake up in your car in your yard soaking wet with lottery tickets, and you didn't remember how any of that happened.
I think you're combining two different stories. The other time was I was at a party at Georgia Tech, and I woke up. I was confronted by my dad in the kitchen because I had all the food out of the refrigerator, but I had parked the car in the yard.
Lovely.
And but no, that was
none of those were alien abductions.
I think it was like an alien abduction. Waking up in my truck, soaking wet.
I got a movie.
Wait, hold on. So this guy shows up a couple weeks later after these guys are already on their way to getting put on trial for murder, and he's naked in a phone booth, and calls them. They come pick him up, and so now the authorities have egg on their face, and he basically ends up. He's taken to a hospital, and he's struggling. He's repressed all the memories, but he's talking to a psychiatrist. Same thing. He starts recovering all these memories because he's out in the woods, and then it's 2 weeks later.
Yeah,
so exactly what Silky was talking about. Doesn't remember shit, and he recovers all these memories, and then that's where you get the flashbacks to where he's in the cocoon pod and floating around the spaceship and gets experimented on and shit. Also, just equally as fucking spooky as Communion. I watched those two on the same weekend and was like, totally.
Well, I when you were talking about fire in the sky, there's a movie called The Fourth Kind, and that came out in like 2009. It's about this psychologist who investigates a series of unexplained disappearances in remote Alaska, up in Nome, Alaska. And it's sort of based on a true story where a lot of people have gone missing over the past 40 years. And there's a lot of accusations about a federal cover-up up there. But The Fourth Kind, really intense alien abduction movie.
Isn't Close Encounter of the Fourth Kind where they have sex with an alien? Like seriously, I'm not joking.
I don't know. This is called The Fourth Kind. Mila Jovovich is in it. You should check that out. It's right in line with Fire in the Sky.
All right, I am going to ask about that though, because I'm not joking around. I could have swore
good movie.
The Close Encounter of the Third Kind is you meet them in person. Close Encounter of the Fourth Kind is like interbreeding, but I'm going to ask real quick. I'm not joking around. Let me just find out.
Oh my God, we're all waiting with.
Yeah. Hey, I was patient during all your shit. Hold on a second.
What I was talking about was somewhat legit.
No, Close Encounter of the Fourth Kind does not refer to. That must have been a porn movie.
Okay, yeah. See.
All right. So, anyways,
what was Chariots of the Gods?
That was basically ancient documentary about how all the ancient religions this idea of gods was actually aliens that they were seeing, and they started worshiping them.
Cool. I said, it's like a 40-50 minute movie. That's one of the ones I saw when I was my dad took me. It was actually in the theater, but it wasn't very long, and basically it's all these different ancient civilizations and how each of them have a different kind of experience that involves basically aliens.
Right.
And they from the Nazca lines, in Peru, incredible. To the statues of like spacemen that they found in Japan, with helmets and stuff like that from way back, thousands of years ago. They go all over the world and check that stuff out, and it's kind of freaky. That movie kind of freaked me out.
Yeah, they have.
I'll link that one too.
You brought up something. They have. It's a very small. It's about the size of a dime or a quarter, and it's this small little wooden carved statue of like a helmet and a body and everything. And you're like, what the hell? And the carbon dating is like astronomical, like thousands of years old.
That's crazy.
And you're like, well, what could that be? It's just funny. But so I don't know if you guys have any farewell stuff. I was going to
wait, hold on. We one thing
UFO story.
One thing before your UFOs. Two things before your UFO story. One is Lemmy saw a UFO, so there's that. Basically, in the 1960s, he fucking saw a UFO. So, got to work Lemmy in here. We haven't mentioned Kiss yet, so Kiss. Well, you mentioned Gene Simmons. Yeah. And then the episode would not be complete without a shout out to the great band UFO.
Yes, who their first few albums, and I did include some of their UFO songs.
Talk about the playlist a little bit.
On that playlist, the playlist, I really just songs that I knew that mentioned space or alien abduction or anything to do with aliens. But we were kicking around. Mr. Clean kind of pointed out a song I was going to work in anyway, but it was funny. He rattled off a few Judas Priest songs. But this is a massive playlist. I call it Flying Saucers Rock and Roll. And it's just got everybody 50s, 60s, just good rock and roll stuff.
Every alien centered rock and roll song, and you will be shocked when you check out this playlist and see how many there were. There were endless amount of songs about UFOs.
Yeah, tons.
And aliens. Yeah.
Tons. We didn't even talk about Rush.
To listen to.
Rush has got some alien shit going on in some of their albums. Holy cow.
Oh yeah. I put they have a song. Well, I did Fly By Night. That's not, I always thought that was like an alien taking you off somewhere. There's a Rush song on here that I dig. Oh man.
Do you have Surfing with the Alien on there, or was that just an album title?
Yeah, no, I put that on there. Alien Shore is a Rush song.
There you go.
2004. It's a good one. But yeah, no, it's just chock full of great
alien songs. Well,
alien stuff.
Let's wrap this up with
Flying Purple People Eater on there. Hey,
yes, that's
it came down from the sky, landed in a tree. Guy, what are you doing here? I came down here to rock. You know, I mean, what do you better in a rock band?
Yeah,
so, yeah, I that's in there. That's a good one.
Absolutely, and Lemmy obviously was not of this earth, so
no, exactly.
So Silky, why don't you take us out with your UFO sighting story?
My UFO story. Me and this guy Chris Veach were leaving. We had gone to lunch and we're coming back, and you turn down what's called around Lenox Road, which circles the mall, and as you pass the MARTA station there at the corner of Lenox Road, that little access road would dead end into you turned up and went around the mall. But we're driving, and at the horizon above us is the moon all lit up, and it's still daylight, but the moon is just this, and I'm like, good God, the moon is really low, like just lower than we would normally imagine it to be. And so if people at home listening, if you picture a perfect lit up circle and then it slowly elongates in front of us, and we flip it, we like grabbed each other like, oh my God. And the angle we had, this circle just slowly starts to elongate, and it's all glowing. The entire object in the sky is glowing, and we're like, what the fuck? And we stop the car, we get out, why would you get out when you think of fire in the sky? Hey, take me.
Abduct me.
But we got out and we're looking up at this thing, and it's just all lit up, and in the midst of being lit up, now it's fully elongated in front of us. We're seeing the side view of this object now, and it's all lit up, and we're seeing letters, and I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, we're seeing human letters. They're either trying to communicate with us, or this is on the side of this ship.
Right. And alien script of some kind.
Yeah, I'm like, no man has seen this lettering, and as I'm looking at it, I'm going to say what I saw. Don't put them together yet. I see it says, and I'm saying this out loud to Chris, he was driving. We're both looking up, freaking out. And I'm like, it says Bud Light. And I look at him, I get in the car, and it was a Bud Light blimp that was lit up entirely, not just the lettering or whatever. But what we saw was the front of the blimp, and as it turned, it just elongated in front of us. But the moral there is you can psych yourself up. You're seeing something that you've not, and to this day, I've not seen a fully lit up blimp like that, the way that was.
Well, that was obviously an alien craft disguised as a Bud Light blimp.
Yes.
That's right.
We were electrified. We were so freaked out.
If they would have abducted you, you'd have had to been funneling beer.
Sure. But we were so freaked out. So I know just that emotion of like, oh, we saw a UFO or something. Like, right. We really thought we saw something. It was, but it's funny as hell because it's just the angle that so you wonder some of these stories, what did they see? Did they see something, or was it, something else? You just don't know.
I have never seen jack shit, but I have a hard time. Logic tells me that something's going on if there's support groups around the world of people who are describing the same shit,
And there's sightings going back hundreds and thousands of years.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of the episode, I said it, there are 8 billion to 8 trillion planets in our galaxy.
Right.
And you're telling me we're it. That's not logical.
Yeah, shit ain't making sense there.
No.
Mr. Clean, why don't you take us out with some final words on UFOs?
Well, I would just say that one movie we didn't talk about, and it kind of leads to my point, is the movie Contact.
Oh, it's a great one. Yeah,
I found that movie to be very, very compelling. I think it dragged a little bit. It has a little bit longer than it needed to be.
Jodie Foster, right?
Kind of a hard movie to complete at the end. How can you do a perfect ending for a movie like that? But just the concept of, like, can you imagine how big that would be if something, it would be the biggest event in human history. It happened and everybody saw it. Like, you're just out doing your job, you're mowing the lawn, and a freaking real giant spaceship comes flying overhead, or some signal does come from outer space that we can translate, and suddenly it's everything has changed. Everything has changed
overnight. The fact that this country can just be completely undone by the smallest thing, I can't imagine what kind of chaos would ensue with a giant ship in the sky.
It'd be interesting. It would depend on how it went down.
A lot of idiots that seem to do stupid shit when
they do stupid shit even without the aliens. So you put aliens in the mix, and
that's what I'm saying.
You'd have Florida Man on steroids.
Yeah.
Only thing we can hope for is this alien Swedish bikini team spaceship with like 5 million perfect tens.
You know what it would be like? It would be like in Apocalypse Now, the extended cut. I think it's the extended cut or maybe it's in the regular cut where the what is it? The USO girls come in the middle of the jump.
That's
the helicopter lands and they come out and they do their little show.
That's good times.
It'd be just
that. E.T. went home and maybe brings back some honeys.
We didn't talk about E.T., probably the biggest selling alien movie of all time. Steven Spielberg.
Yeah,
he's an alien.
Spielberg really, that's like a whole episode on Spielberg. All his movies, very family oriented, but just brilliant topics. Like, I want to make a movie about this, and it's amazing.
Not all of them. Schindler's List was pretty intense, but
but I'm saying a lot of his movies just touch on really epic things.
He does. He'll switch, like Close Encounters. I wouldn't say that was family oriented either. I'd say that was a pretty adult movie, but then he'll dip into fucking alien on a bicycle with a kid. It's like okay,
with a basket,
right? All right, well, that's UFOs in books and movies, folks, and music. Check the playlist. So
the playlist is incredible, by the way. I'm gonna
like that.
Well, but I also could help contribute to it, and I knew
you did
kind of what some of y'all's picks would be, but it's everybody's jamming about freaking aliens, man. I'm just telling you, the playlist rocks.
Yeah, awesome.
Y'all got to check that shit out. Well, peace out, motherfuckers.
Deuces.
Later on, folks. I'm getting beamed out of here right now.
Beat me up, Scotty. This place is fucking nuts.